The mysterious journey of survival on Mount Asahi Dake. When the summit of Mount Asahi Dake was shrouded in thick fog, it was known that a great storm had left a terrible mark on the area. Winds howled through the canyons, torrential rains eroded the ground, and lightning bolts sounded like warnings of nature's fury. This was the setting for one of the strangest and most mysterious stories the region's search and rescue teams had ever encountered. A desperate search. Takashi and Hiro, two hikers from Tokyo, had set out to conquer Asahi Dake the day before. But after they lost contact, no one could locate them. A helicopter team was deployed, scouring the ravines and rugged terrain. The first hours passed in vain as the fog thickened, obscuring all traces.
As the sunlight faded, so did hope. Search teams were prepared to call it quits for the night. But as darkness began to envelop the area, something unexpected happened. In the dim light of the helicopter, a giant SOS sign emerged from a clearing made of branches and rocks. Strange discovery. Rescue teams immediately located and approached the area. They believed that the missing people had put up the sign in a last desperate attempt to call for help. With hope rekindled, search teams quickly found Takashi and Hiro in a cave about a mile north. Both men were exhausted, but alive. They were lifted into the helicopter, and when the rescue team praised their cleverness in putting up the SOS sign, they looked at each other in confusion. Shocking confession. "We didn't put up the sign," Hiro insisted, looking astonished. "We didn't know about it. We were just trying to take shelter in the cave when the storm came." His words silenced the rescue team for a moment. If they hadn't put up the sign, who had? In the harsh conditions and remote location, there was no way anyone else could have shown up. Unsolved mystery. Despite their safe rescue, the story of the SOS sign remains a mystery. Some believe it was the work of a person or group of people who had been trapped before and left a rescue sign. Others have more mystical theories, suggesting that some supernatural force intervened to save Takashi and Hiro's lives. The rescue team later returned to the area to investigate further, but found no sign of who or what had created the sign. Locals, hearing the story, recounted old legends about the guardian spirits of Mount Asahi Dake, who often help people in trouble on the mountain. The story of the SOS sign on Mount Asahi Dake has become a controversial topic. For Takashi and Hiro, the event was not only a journey of survival, but also a reminder of the mystery and power of nature. Was it luck, survival instinct, or something beyond human understanding? Perhaps the answer will forever lie in the thick fog of Asahi Dake. Strange and simple? The mystery of Mount Asahi Dake. Hokkaido, Japan. One of the most famous destinations for nature lovers and adventure enthusiasts. With its breathtaking natural landscape, it attracts thousands of hikers every year. But in its peaceful beauty, Mount Asahi Dake has become the center of a strange and controversial story, leaving unanswered questions. A giant SOS sign built from 19 birch logs. The sign is located on a wetland on the south side of the mountain, far from any trails. Which begs the question, who put up this sign and how did they get there? The horrifying discovery. 2 days later, when the rescue team returned to the wetlands to search for more clues, they discovered a haunting scene. Not far from the SOS sign, they found the remains of a person, surrounded by traces of wildlife. Nearby was a backpack containing various personal items: a Sony Walkman, 4 cassette tapes, toothpaste, soap, and a towel. The remains were determined to be those of a woman in her 20s to 40s, approximately 5, with type O blood. She had died between 1 and 3 years ago, with multiple fractures in her body. But there were no identification papers or clear clues to her identity. The mysteries. The SOS sign showed incredible tenacity. Erecting it required great strength and survival skills. However, no one understood why she came to this remote wetland, or how she survived long enough to erect such a sign. In particular, the fact that she was left with a Sony Walkman, 4 cassette tapes, and no other vital survival items was puzzling. Fact or paranormal? The story of the SOS sign and the woman's remains has become an unsolved mystery. Several theories have been put forward. Natural accident, she may have gotten lost and erected the sign to call for help, but did not survive. Conspiracy or crime? Did someone force her to come here? Or was the sign not her own? The supernatural? Some locals believe the mountain is cursed, and the sign is a sign of a mysterious entity trying to communicate. Despite continued investigations, no further clues have been found. The SOS sign still stands, a reminder of the unsolved mystery atop Asahi Dake. What really happened? This story will forever remain one of Hokkaido's greatest mysteries, where beauty and strangeness collide, creating a story that is full of controversy. Something is wrong. The mystery of the SOS sign on Asahi Dake, Hokkaido, Japan, an island known for its unspoiled natural beauty and rugged mountains. While Asahi Dake, Hokkaido's highest mountain, is often a popular destination for adventure enthusiasts, a haunting mystery has rocked the mountaineering community and investigators. On a wetland south of Asahi Dake, far from any well-trodden path, a giant SOS sign has been discovered, stirring controversy and defying all logic. Who erected the sign, and why? Suspicious discovery. The SOS sign is made up of 19 giant birch logs, each 16 feet long, weighing between 150 and 400 pounds. The total weight of the sign is estimated to be between 2,850 and 7,600 pounds, a staggering figure for anyone, especially a 5-woman with broken bones and no sign of proper tools. Not only did erecting the sign require extraordinary strength, but the rugged terrain surrounding the site added to the incredible story. The route to the site involved a treacherous 2.6-mile detour through steep cliffs, dense forests, and the raging Chubetsu River. The mysterious woman. The remains found near the sign belonged to a young woman, approximately 40 years old, 5, blood type O, who had died between 1 and 3 years earlier. Examination revealed that she had suffered multiple fractures, possibly from a fall or attack before her death. Nearby, a backpack contained a few personal items: a Sony Walkman, 4 cassette tapes, toothpaste, soap, and a towel. However, there were no woodcutters or survival tools suitable for erecting the sign. The unexplainable. Weight and strength. Building an SOS sign out of 19 massive logs was far beyond the capabilities of an average person, especially a woman with broken bones and no proper tools. Moving the logs over rough terrain was even more impossible. Time and energy. If she had actually built the sign, it would have meant she had the energy and stamina to work non-stop for an extended period of time, which was completely unreasonable given the lack of food and water. Was she alone? Was it possible that she was not the only one there? Was there someone else who might have helped erect the sign, or who had been with her in the accident? If so, why is there no trace of their existence? Controversial theories. Accident or lost? A popular theory is that she got lost and erected the sign to ask for help. However, the weight and size of the sign is far beyond the capacity of a single person. Crime or conspiracy? Was someone forcing her to erect the sign, or was the sign not actually erected by her? If so, what was her motive? Supernatural. Some locals believe that the wetlands are cursed. Perhaps the SOS sign is a trace of a mysterious entity trying to communicate, or an event beyond human understanding. The story of the SOS sign on Asahi Lake remains an unsolved mystery. Although there are many theories, none are entirely convincing. The only thing that is certain is that this sign exists, a haunting reminder of both the powerlessness and the extraordinary capacity of humans in the face of harsh nature. Who put this sign up? How did they get here? And what really happened? We may never know. The Mystery Woman. The remains found near the sign belong to a young woman, approximately 40 years old, 5, blood type O, who had died between 1 and 3 years earlier. Examination revealed that she had suffered multiple fractures, possibly from a fall or an attack before her death. A backpack nearby contained several personal items: a Sony Walkman, 4 cassette tapes, toothpaste, soap, and a towel. However, there were no woodcutters or survival tools suitable for erecting the sign. The unexplainable. Weight and strength. Building the SOS sign from 19 massive logs was far beyond the capabilities of an average person, especially a woman with broken bones and no proper tools. Moving the logs over rough terrain was even more impossible. Time and energy. If she did build the sign, that would mean she had the energy to strength and stamina to work non-stop for a long period of time, which is completely unreasonable given the lack of food and water. Was she alone? Is it possible that she was not the only one there? Were there others who may have helped put up the sign, or were with her in the accident? If so, why are there no traces of their existence? Controversial theories. Accident or lost. A popular theory is that she got lost and put up the sign to ask for help. However, the weight and size of this sign are far beyond the capacity of a single person. Crime or conspiracy. Did someone force her to put up the sign? Or was the sign not actually hers? If so, what was her motive? Supernatural. Some locals believe that this wetland is cursed. Perhaps the SOS sign is a trace of a mysterious entity trying to communicate, or an event beyond human understanding. The story of the SOS sign on Asahi Lake remains an unsolved mystery. While there are many theories, none are entirely convincing. The only thing that is certain is that the sign exists, as a haunting reminder of both human helplessness and human capacity in the face of harsh nature. Who put up this sign? How did they get there? And what really happened? We may never know. A mystery of extraordinary circumstances. In the cold darkness, the dim light from the investigators' flashlights pierces the dense forest. This is the first time they have returned to the site where the mysterious woman's skeleton and giant SOS sign were found. An investigation that has seemed to drag on for too long is now illuminated by a new discovery. Mysterious cassette tapes. The cassettes had been lying dormant in a rusty tin box, buried in a pile of dirt near where the sign had been erected. When they were brought back to headquarters, Chief Investigator Jackson believes they hold the key to solving the years-long mystery. Strange sounds. The investigators play the cassette tapes one by one. Most of them are anime soundtracks, with familiar tunes that fans of the genre have probably heard. But the last tape, which they thought was just a normal recording, made the air in the room noticeably colder. A voice rang out. SOS, help me. I'm stuck on the cliff. SOS, help me. I'm at the first place where I saw the helicopter. The Sasa is too deep. I can't climb up. Please, pick me up here. The voice was choked, full of pain. But what was special was that it was a man's voice, not a woman's. The investigators looked at each other, confused. The skeleton they discovered clearly belonged to an adult woman. But this voice suggested a different story. Two lonely fates? A careful analysis of the recording did not stop at the content but also at the intonation and details. In each of the man's words, there was no sign that he was not alone. He was asking for help for himself, not mentioning anyone else. The woman, the owner of the skeleton, does not appear in his story. So how did these two end up in the same place, with the same fate, but without knowing of each other's existence? The bigger question, if they did not put up the SOS sign together, who did? Fragmented clues. The investigation continued to delve deeper into the context. Investigators speculated that the woman may have died many years before the man appeared. But this did not explain why the SOS sign, which required a great deal of effort and time to put up, was there. Another theory was put forward. The man in the recording was indeed the one who put up the SOS sign, but for some reason he did not know that he was not alone. It is possible that the woman arrived at the area exhausted or unconscious, and her death came without anyone knowing. Rumors and hypotheses. The story quickly spread, becoming a hot topic on social media. Netizens were divided into several factions. 2 victims, 1 survivor. Some believe the man in the recording was the one who put up the SOS sign, but somehow escaped the area, leaving the woman behind, or didn't know she existed. A massive conspiracy. Conspiracy theorists suggest that both victims were drawn into a sick game or secret experiment. The SOS sign could have been a sign or a cry for help from the men themselves, but they couldn't survive the ordeal. The cursed site. Others believe the area is supernatural. The 2 men somehow ended up in a warped space-time landscape where time and perception are out of sync. An unsolved mystery. Ultimately, there is no clear evidence to connect the 2 victims beyond the location where the remains were found and the SOS sign. Investigators had to admit that this was one of the most mysterious cases they had ever encountered. But the story lives on in the hearts of those who love mystery cases. A giant SOS sign, 2 lone people in a deadly location make everyone wonder. Was this just a tragic accident or evidence of something beyond human comprehension? Initial discovery. A strange SOS sign was spotted from the air in 1984. The sign was made from stacked tree trunks, clearly man-made. Nearby, investigators found decomposed bones, initially identified as those of a woman. The bones were believed to be those of a victim of an unexplained tragedy, sparking a flurry of bizarre theories. As police dug deeper into the case, a strange discovery complicated matters. Cassette tapes. The recordings contained music from popular anime, but one of them contained the voice of a desperate man calling for help. His plea for help was chilling. SOS, help me. I'm stuck on the cliff. I'm at the place where I first saw the helicopter. Please help me. The voice made no mention of any woman, leaving investigators baffled. Why is the woman trapped with him never mentioned? Or does she even exist? Clues from journalist Koyo Abaratani. The case seemed to be at a standstill, until Japanese reporter Koyo Abaratani decided to investigate for himself. Trekking into the area where the SOS sign was found, he found a large pit filled with buried belongings, 2 cameras, a laptop, and most importantly, an ID card belonging to Kenji Iwamura, a 24-year-old man from Konan, more than 800 miles away. Kenji Iwamura's profile. According to the profile, Kenji was a nature and anime lover. That fateful summer, he set out on a hiking trip in Asahi Lake, despite warnings of an approaching typhoon. The innkeeper, though hesitant, let him go. But after the typhoon, Kenji never returned. When the police visited Kenji's family, They confirmed that the belongings they found belonged to him. However, when they heard the voice on the tape, the family insisted that it was not Kenji's voice. The police still insisted that the SOS sign was made by Kenji, even though the evidence linking him to the case was only circumstantial. The case was quickly closed, leading to public criticism of the way the authorities handled the case. The surprising truth about the skeletons. In 1990, a re-examination of the skeletons revealed a shocking truth. They were not of a woman, but of a man with blood type A, completely different from the initial assessment. This made all the police theories baseless. Whose voice was on the cassette tape? Who did the skeleton belong to? And who made the SOS sign? These questions will never be answered. An unanswered mystery. The story of the Asahi Dake SOS sign remains one of Japan's most controversial mysteries. It raises questions not only about human helplessness in the face of nature, but also about how we handle unsolved crimes. In the shadow of Asahi Dake, whispers of death and isolation continue to haunt those who know its story. Remaining questions. Reclassifying the bones. The origin of controversy. The reclassification of the bones found on the mountain has sent shockwaves through the scientific community. Initially, they were thought to belong to a group of missing hikers, but recent analyses have changed everything. The bones turned out to be not only human, but also included animal traces, raising questions about the presence of mysterious predators, or even some kind of brutality. Who was the man on Kenji's tape? His voice hoarse and urgent. A mysterious companion, a stalker, or just a chance witness? There was nothing in the voice that confirmed the connection to Kenji, but it opened a door to understanding what really happened. Giant trees, the puzzle of movement. Another strange sight is the appearance of giant trees that have been cut down and moved to inexplicable locations. It is said that it is impossible for a single individual to carry and arrange such multi-ton trunks. However, the saw marks on the trunks clearly show that they were not felled by nature. Was Kenji or some group trying to use these trees to send a message? Or could they be acting as a signal for something more mysterious? Fake safe rock. A dangerous landmark. As we studied the terrain of Motin, Asahi Dake more closely, something strange appeared. Fake safe rock. A rock that many hikers mistake for the real safe rock has been the cause of many disappearances. Its ironic name evokes a sense of unease, especially when you know that one wrong step here can lead to dangerous terrain, where steep cliffs and dense sasa bamboo bushes threaten lives. The rope marking fake safe rock is meant to warn hikers. However, simple signs or scattered signs are easy to misunderstand, especially when the light is poor and exhaustion overwhelms adventurers' judgment. The fall of Kenji Iwamura. With the current evidence, the theory that Kenji Iwamura was the only person involved in the strange events at Asahi Dake is becoming increasingly convincing. But is it fair to pin everything, from the misclassification of bones to the giant trees, to the disappearances, on one man? Or is this just a made-up story to cover up something deeper? Kenji's recordings provide some important clues. The final words on the tape, a haunting whisper, "I can't go back," evoke a sense of despair. But what drove him to go so far? And what happened to him after the recording stopped? Decoding the SOS signal problem. Kenji Iwamura started his journey from the lodge and headed up the Asahi Dake Trail. Because of the approaching typhoon, there were likely to be very few hikers on the mountain. He made his way up before the sky darkened and thick fog rolled in. He saw the fake safe rock, mistook it for the real thing, and turned right, heading south. As the day wore on, he began to panic, the sky darkening as his anxiety grew. He didn't recognize a single thing about the path he was taking, and it quickly became clear to him that he wasn't venturing anywhere near the summit. Completely turned around and left with no other choice, he continued on, following a path that pointed downwards. Was he heading back to camp? Was there a town in this direction? Where was he going? As the hours passed, he became more and more panicked and began screaming for help so that everyone could hear. He fell off a cliff on the way down and broke 2 bones. And so, in his great distress, he pulled out his Sony Walkman to record an SOS message, and then played the song over and over again to avoid damaging his voice. As he continued to limp down, he encountered and crossed the Chubetsu River, before finally landing at his final destination, the flat wetlands where he would build SOS, and where the two would inevitably stay. On the surface, this theory makes sense. However, when you start to analyze the smaller details, this story quickly falls apart. As we know, the only cliffs in the vicinity are in the mountains. And if this is what Kenji refers to in his recording, assuming it was him, then he would have arrived at the wetlands with broken bones and in excruciating pain. Even if we give him the benefit of the doubt and say that he had every tool in the world, building a sign of this scale would have required a huge amount of effort for just one person. It is said that something like this would take 2 days to build for a healthy person. So how could Kenji have done this while so badly injured? No axe was ever found. And why would he have brought an axe with him when he went climbing? On top of that, the condition of the bones suggests that he would have been extremely weak when he died. There is no way this man would have built this on his own, leading me to believe that Kenji Iwamura was probably not the only one who died there. Consider this. Kenji was hiking, and while climbing, he met another hiker out there. They were both on their way to the summit, so they paired up and continued their trek together. As the fog rolled in, they both began making equally serious mistakes, ending up at Fake Safe Rock and getting lost down the south side of the mountain. Wounded, one of them made a recording while the other begged to be allowed to continue. And so they continued down, across the river and into the wetlands where Kenji lay in agony. It's possible that this other hiker, for some reason, had an axe, and over the next few days, created this sign with very limited help from Kenji. However, Kenji knew he couldn't go any further, and so in a last desperate move, the hiker grabbed a handful of supplies and ran off to find help. In a way, this might explain why the police never found the axe. It might explain why the voice in the recording wasn't Kenji, and it might explain how this sign was created in the first place. The human body can survive 3 days without water, and perhaps this stranger used the last of his strength to rescue them. But in the end, they never made it, and instead died slowly, surrounded by darkness, by the wilderness, and in a completely abandoned forest. Maybe their bodies are still out there, but we haven't found them. It's a tragic end for someone who may not even exist. But damn it, it's the only way this story makes sense. Kenji Iwamura had to rely on someone else to help him out on the mountain that night. There was no way he couldn't have done it. Japan's strangest unsolved mystery. It was a dark night on Mount Asahi Dake. A light storm blew through, bringing with it a hazy mist. Before my eyes, there was only the silence of the white snow. The only traces of humanity were the broken bones in the biting cold. They lay there like the remnants of an untold story, a mystery that the police could never solve. When I first heard about these skeletons, I couldn't believe that there was only one person there that night. It was all too strange to be explained by a single person. The broken bones, a stranger on the ice, and the quick closure of the case. Something was wrong. How could a person move literally tons of weight, after the severe injuries his body had suffered. It all contradicted what we thought was possible. As I delved deeper into the details of this case, I began to think of strange theories. However far-fetched they seemed, perhaps there were not one but two people on Mount Asahi Dake that night. One might have died and never been found. But what about the other? Were they unaware of each other's existence? Could they have been on the same path at different times, without ever meeting? And then, as I listened to the recording of the man named Kenji, the strangest thing happened. He never mentioned anyone else, not a word about who he was with. Every detail of Kenji's story made me think that perhaps he himself was unaware of the presence of others. The SOS sign he himself had left behind might not have been just a sign of salvation. Maybe it was a reminder, a trace back, as if he was sending a signal to himself. Things got even murkier when the police, after discovering the bones, couldn't identify their owner. They were classified as a man's bones, but no one could conclusively say it was Kenji. This made me wonder, if those bones weren't his, then who left that mark on the mountain? And then the case became even more complicated when an important question arose. When was the SOS signal made and who did it? Was it Kenji or someone else? These questions remained unanswered, and to this day, this case remains one of the unsolved mysteries. A case that the police could not explain, and that I could never forget. SOS signs, skeletons, strangers on the ice. All are part of a story that cannot be ended. A story whose truth may forever remain hidden in the cold white snow of Mount Asahi Dake.